December of 2022 that we really had a storm that was equal, if not more dangerous than the old blizzard of '77, where more than 40 people in our region passed away because of that storm. The Christmas storm of 2022, tonight's focus on Buffalo broadcasting, and it starts right now. Hi, everybody. This is another edition of Broadcasting Buffalo, coming to you from the studios on the campus of Buffalo State University, my alma mater. I'm Kevin O'Connell, and it's nice to have you with us. As I mentioned a moment ago, we're going to focus in on what is now called the Christmas blizzard of 2022. We all remember back in 1977, well, by many people's measurement, this storm was worse in many different directions, and we're going to cover a lot of ground over the next 30 minutes, so we're glad you're with us. Why don't we begin with a report from Alessia Gervasi in the field. Alessia?
Months later, there are still reminders of the blizzard that happened in December of 2022, which changed the lives for many people. With extreme wind gusts and relentless snowfall creating a whiteout effect, Buffalo faced a horrendous blizzard, but for Shakira Autry, it was unforgettable.
I tell my boyfriend, I said to him, somebody's outside, and they're, yelling for help and they're banging on the door.
Joe White, or Joey as Autry calls him, got to know each other. After her and her boyfriend took Joey in, she not only cared for him, but saved his life.
A lot of people say to me, like, oh my God, how did you care for his hands like that? And I said, I just did it, but I also watched the transition of it.
In an emergency with limited time to spare, Shakira did what she could to save Joey from the damage that he had already suffered from frostbite. Shakira turned to her Facebook for help after going live and sharing her strong emotions about getting Joey the proper care he needed.
And I got off of Facebook, not even 10 minutes is when people just start showing up.
After spending 36 hours together, Shakira and Joey developed a bond that will last a lifetime.
Well, I knew I would be in contact forever. I knew that automatically. We've already stamped that.
She not only received support locally, but a nationwide gain of recognition. Shakira and her boyfriend were surprised with tickets to the Super Bowl by CBS News, along with other acts of gratitude.
I've received so many thank you cards. So many people have sent stuff from Hawaii. People have sent me chocolate from Hawaii. It's just, I've received so much love.
Not everyone was as lucky as Joe. More than 40 people died in the storm, many outside in the cold. Lieutenant Luteric of the West Seneca Police Department talked about the ways that the blizzard took over a typical workday at the station.
All the normal rules go out the window. It kind of descends us into a little bit of controlled chaos.
Hundreds of vehicles left stranded throughout Buffalo during the storm, left covering the roads. Some with people in them, and others left even days after the storm eventually stopped.
So we probably had over 100 motorists stuck in cars. Getting them alone is a massive challenge because our patrol cars are all four-wheel drive, but when there's that much snow and when you can't see, it's a real challenge getting to people.
Though the West Seneca Police never stopped responding to emergencies in the area, managing how to get there was one of the biggest challenges faced.
Normally, we're pretty quick. We can be at an emergency call within a minute or two for the most part anywhere in town. And something like this, it's taken us 20 minutes just to get to somebody's.
With wind gusts in the mid to high 70s and snowbanks across the Buffalo area at about 5 to 8 feet, the conditions outside quickly became deadly.
We rescued well over 100 people and brought them to various shelters, or we bring them to the police station, we bring them to a hotel, wherever we can. It's a free-for-all.
The dispatch crew of the West Seneca Police Department worked days on end to answer calls that were similar to each other. Even the people who were not outside were also in danger, being stuck in their homes with no heat or power.
Our patrol cars were getting stuck left and right, and when you can't get somewhere and people are calling for help, it's like you just feel this helpless feeling. It's our job as the police is like when people call us, they expect somebody to respond, and this like telling people like nobody's coming is like, it's a really it's a hard thing for everybody. I think it's a scary time. So
While some people were in their vehicles or at home, others had no choice but to stay at their jobs, to work what seemed like a never-ending shift. Registered nurse Tara Albertson worked overtime when the storm hit.
When the snow started falling around 8, it quickly became evident that it was likely going to be longer than the next morning.
People who work in hospitals all over Western New York were stuck unknowingly for days because the next shift was unable to make it in. Tara had to cover shifts from Friday morning until Sunday afternoon.
It was really tough knowing, as things went on, that we really didn't know when we were going to go home.
Tara and her coworkers experienced a work shift like never before. With the help of each other's support, they made it through what was one of the most unprecedented shifts of their careers.
I had a great crew I was working with. We worked really well together. We did get a little bit of sleep here and there. We slept in the hospital rooms on our floor. We got to be really close friends.
To see more coverage on the blizzard of 2022, you can visit our website at broadcastingbuffalo.com. In Buffalo, I'm Alessia Gervasi.
Alessia, thank you for that report. As they say, a picture is worth many, many thousands of words, especially when we're talking about this storm. Hey, when we come back with more of our broadcast, we're going to be talking with Mike Yost and also Tom Witkowski from the Lions Club. They did something very different, not so much for the Lions Club, but for our community during the Christmas blizzard of 2022. That story when we come back.
Hello, Buffalo. I'm Ed Asner. You may remember me as television's no-nonsense news director Lou Grant. And if you think about it, journalists provide us with our first draft of history. Right here in Buffalo, more than 50 years of TV news coverage is being brought back to life. Local stations are working with the Buffalo Broadcasters Association to bring back the stories that helped define the Niagara frontier.
The Pheasant Lane neighborhood, where drifts reach to the rooftops.
It's called the Archive Project, and I support it with all my heart. So should you.
You're watching Buffalo Broadcasting here in Western New York. I'm Kevin O'Connell, your host, and we're on the campus of Buffalo State for our broadcast. You know, the storm of Christmas 2022 was catastrophic in more ways than one, but don't take my word for it, because a lot of good, interesting things came out of what we now know was the storm that certainly by measure could have been the worst we have ever had. Michael Yost, Tom Witkowski. A couple of gentlemen from the Lions Club. Michael is the regional governor of Lions, and Tom is one of the members of our local Lions Club. And gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you, Kevin.
Very interesting story, Michael. What happened during the blizzard of 2022 where the Lions became involved?
Well, like everybody here that lives around here, there was a terrible storm to live through. And we're at home, most of us hopefully hunkered down in our homes. And many of us felt helpless and just watching things happen. And that was me sitting at home, looking at Facebook and listening to the weather reports. And there was a group on Facebook that was blizzard oriented that was brought up that day. And on this Facebook page were people that were putting issues out there, maybe needed help, their power was off, whatever the situations were, and getting any information they could. And one of the people on there was a young mother in Buffalo whose power had gone out. And she had a 1-year-old baby that needed a ventilator to survive. So with the power being out, the ventilator would not work. So mom had to manually give breaths to this baby, every breath, to keep the baby alive. And she was posting her situation on Facebook in real time. And people were responding and replying to her posts. Keep it up, Mom, you can do it. There was times where Mom felt like giving up, but she was did not want to give up. So people are urging her to keep your baby alive, do the right thing. You can do it, Mom. Positive reinforcement to Mom. And I was sitting there with my wife reading all this, and I just couldn't believe this was going on. And I says, if there was any way I could just get in my car and help this mom or help anybody, but there was none of that. You couldn't see past your front door. So for 48 hours, this mommy had to do this. So, and it was covered by some news media locally, and the story was shown to many people. And when this story was shown, it actually reached across New York State to a larger audience somehow, and that's where Lion Tom can pick up the rest of this story and how that he found out about it, and then people contacted me and what we could do.
Tom?
Members of my team with the Brandel Murphy Youth Foundation reached out to Lion Mike and said, what can we do here locally to help this woman out? So Mike got in touch with me, and he was thinking about a portable generator that we could bring to that, but we couldn't do it during the blizzard. So we had to wait until things cleared up before we could do it. Well, by this time, power was restored. But to prevent this from ever happening again, through the Brandel Murphy Youth Foundation, we organized an emergency grant to supply the generator and an extension cord and even 5 gallons of gas to tide this woman over in the event that this power outage ever occurred again.
Let me just interrupt real quickly. Where do those funds come from? Is there a bank account for emergencies like this, or was this the Lions Club stepping up and taking a special collection to get that generator?
We raise money through the public through various methods. We have a superhero raffle that is on Super Bowl Sunday. We raise money that way. We raise money, obviously, through private donations. We also have endowments and grants that we receive from other organizations in order to provide the money for projects throughout all over New York State, and also even the country of Bermuda.
Well, you know, it's interesting because the history that I know, going back to around 1917 or 1914, with the Lions originally, they're very community oriented in terms of the service they provide to communities. Michael, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Not like this in our area. Lions around the world do many things in many different ways. We have 1,400,000 members around the world. In 200 countries. We are the largest service organizations in the world. So there are many things good going on for people, but in our area, I've never heard of this. This was a one-off incident, and to be able to get the funds from the Brandel Murphy Foundation and then tailor what she needs in the future. And when we delivered these items, we said to her, we hope you don't ever have to use this, honestly. We hope we never see a storm like this. We hope you're not in this position ever. But if you are, at least you can have something to rest your mind and keep your mind at ease. And that's what Lions do.
You know, I think with a lot of people in this storm, gentlemen, the idea of a plan of attack was always the thing that people question. How can we do better? Where was the plan of attack from the Lions? Do you have something in your books to deal with something as life and death as a mom keeping her baby alive by her own hands?
Well, Lions can be immobilized quickly because we're in all areas of the world. So if there's a disaster in, let's say, in Turkey, for instance, Lions International Foundation has been there. They were the first ones there with goods and supplies. So wherever there's a problem in the world, a disaster, anything like that, Lions can react very quickly and get help in there. So we're used to that sort of thing. We're used to getting in there quick, helping when we can. We always like to say where there's a need, there's a lion. So that's, Tom, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Tom, tell me why being a member of Lions is something that, number one, you're happy you're a member of that group, and how has it changed you?
Well, this year, it'll be my 30th year as a Lion. And I've seen an awful lot of needs throughout Western New York, and now through the Brandel Murphy Youth Foundation, my knowledge of events that are occurring within our own New York State go across my desk every day. We have needs throughout in communities up in the Adirondack Mountains where currently there's still a food shortage. There's food shortages everywhere. So we have an emergency grant going out to a club up in the Adirondacks that needs food for the food pantry up there. So we're doing this stuff constantly every day. And Lion Mike and district governors before him and people across the state are always contacting me.
I can honestly
stuff.
say I could sit here and talk to you two for a lot longer than the
Oh,
time
for
we
sure.
have. Michael Yost, Tom Witkowski, thank you both not only for your efforts, but for your service and what you have done for this community. And it's needed every day, and we're glad you're part of Lions, and we're glad Lions are part of our community.
Thank you, Kevin.
You
You're
know, as
very
Tom
welcome.
pointed out just a moment ago, there is a wide variety of events that Lions sponsors. And that's part of the funds that was used to help that mom and her little baby. And hopefully in maybe some of our future broadcasts, we might be able to have a picture of that nice, healthy child thanks to you. So if you see an event where Lions are the supporting group, join them, because it's helping our community in more ways than one. You know, the Buffalo Airport is known worldwide as being the best plowers anywhere. Well, how did they do during the Christmas blizzard of 2022? We're going to find that out when we continue.
This is a college that inspires. Here you'll be engaged, strive for excellence, and prepare for a career. Visit our amazing Elmwood Village campus and apply today. You'll achieve your edge here. This place is Buffalo State College.
Welcome back to Broadcasting Buffalo. I'm Kevin O'Connell. We've been focusing so far on the Christmas blizzard of 2022, and I still can't get over the story that the Lions Club shared with us about coming up with that life-saving piece of equipment for a mom who kept her baby alive by her own breath. Just one of the many, many stories about heroism in Western New York. But you know, when it gets right down to the bottom line, safety first. You hear that a lot, certainly in the industrial world, about hats and gloves and goggles. Well, safety first is also very important when you're talking about the weather. Let's find out more from our Jacob Fleming.
After so many people got stuck in their cars during the blizzard, we stopped by AAA to ask some people what you should do and what you should have if you find yourself in that situation.
So we always remind everyone to have an emergency kit in the car.
Elizabeth Carey of AAA recommends that you have jumper cables, a snack, water, a warm blanket, some warm clothes, and you should even have some snacks for your pet in your car in case you get stuck during a snowstorm. During the blizzard of 2022, an alarming number of people were stuck in their cars, including AAA drivers.
The drivers couldn't drive anywhere. We had people stranded, but we couldn't get to them. The drivers wanted to get home. The managers wanted to get home, but when you can't see, you can't drive.
Sadly, several people died in their cars during the blizzard. We asked Carrie what you should do if you get stuck in your car.
The best place to be is in your vehicle, because if you get out of the vehicle, there's a good chance that someone else might strike you, and it could be a more dangerous situation.
She says the only time you should get out of your car is to check to make sure the tailpipe is not covered with snow. Otherwise, carbon monoxide could fill your car. Carrie says on average, you can expect to burn about a half gallon of gas per hour while your car is idling. So, if you have 15 gallons, your car should run for about 30 hours. But what if you're about to run out of gas?
We were telling people to preserve the gasoline that they have. So running the car 10 minutes every hour just to keep it warm and extend that gasoline is a really good tip.
During this storm, emergency responders couldn't get to people trapped in their cars. If you do run out of gas and try to find shelter nearby, remember visibility may be extremely low.
People did go and take shelter wherever they could, but some people couldn't see 2 feet in front of them to know what might even be around. And then that's why you want to just try and stay in the car.
For more information or safety tips, please visit AAA.com. For Broadcasting Buffalo, I'm Jacob Fleming.
Definitely words to live by. Thank you, Jacob, for those safety tips. And again, just don't forget them. Put them into good use. I'd like to introduce you to 3 new friends that I just found about 10 minutes ago before we started this segment on the show. Tony Galasso, along with Paul O'Leary and Patrick Hanley, Gentlemen, nice to have you on our show.
Thanks for having us.
All right, why are they here? Well, they're here because one of the most important pieces of real estate in all of our area, especially around storm time, is the airport. A lot of people want to know, flight canceled, is it open, is it closed? These are the guys that at least keep it in pretty good shape. Tell me exactly, Tony, where do you guys focus your efforts, because you don't do the whole thing?
No, Kevin, we plow the air side, which is where the airplanes park at the terminal, the tarmac.
Okay, right.
And then we do the land side, all the parking lots, all the sidewalks.
So on the outside and in the areas where passengers are walking.
Correct. We also do the tower. That's another area that we do. So we pretty much have all of
So you're a private company that contracts to do this service?
Correct.
Well, you didn't sign up for what we had at Christmas time, is my guess. Patrick, why don't you tell me a little bit about some of the rescues? There were more than one that you guys had to make, along with trying to, plow the areas that you were responsible for.
Yes, we had several rescues. When we arrived at the airport the first day, we got there around 10 o'clock, and we actually didn't start anything. The weather was too bad. The visibility was at zero. So we weren't able to actually start plowing. We waited several hours to see if we could have any opportunity to do that, but we couldn't. Eventually we got a phone call from the airport itself that a couple of their bus drivers were stuck in the snow and they needed some rescuing, and we were the only airport people that were outside of the airport itself. So we began to trek towards them, or where we thought we would find them. It took about an hour to get to them from where we were to where they were. From there, it just started to be a part. We just started picking up people as we found them and started bringing them wherever we could. That lasted basically all night. We pulled people off Genesee Street from the terminal itself.
You were not just on the airport physical grounds. You actually were in an area, and it would be what? Transit Road? Did you go that far off to the north? Or?
We only made it as far as the north as the airport itself, to the entrances.
Paul, outside of the fact that you couldn't see in front of your face, what were some of the other real hazards you had to deal with in a situation like this?
One of the bigger things we were worried about is we had to condition our fuel, because it was so cold that we were worried, we can't get to where we need to help people if the machines lock up or if the vehicles don't work. So that was a big hazard. And then communication, the phones were like in and out. They weren't working properly. So we had radios as a backup. We actually had to use those for a little while to figure out who's where and all of that, to try to coordinate, and then basically make little teams of our guys to cover certain areas to try to help out.
Well, who's calling the shots? Who would be was there a large area of authority they designated you guys to do it, or did you do all of this on your own, fellas?
We basically supported the airport and anything that they needed, because they were trying to deal with their own problems as well, and then we just kind of took it upon ourselves to turn it more into a rescue mission than anything.
It's interesting, because before we begin the segment, Tony and I were talking, and it's an area that I never even thought about. It's the Niagara International Airport. So we had people here that were not Americans, from other countries, and that didn't even speak the language. How did you negotiate that?
Yeah, there were quite a few foreigners, and what we would do was communicate through our cell phones. They would speak into their phone in their language, and then it would print out in English so that I could read it to try and communicate with them.
Unbelievable.
It was something else.
How can we do better service at the airport to make your jobs a bit easier? I know what it's like on the city streets, but as far as the parking areas and the areas right around the terminal, is there anything the citizenry can do to make it easier, Patrick?
The only criticism we can offer right now is if in an event like that, if you don't need to go out, don't do it.
Okay.
There was very few of that, if any, that we encountered. The biggest issue that we had was the inevitability of it. Most people were doing what they had to do. There wasn't much they could do otherwise. People that were stuck on Genesee Street were stuck. They were just trying to get home. They were on their way home from work. The people at the airport, they arrived at the airport thinking they were getting on a flight, and the flight got canceled while they were there. So for that storm itself, I think the warning was sufficient. Then people need to take it upon themselves to help themselves if they can.
Mhm.
But as far as changing what we do, we have some minor things, but for the most part, people were doing what they had to do. They were dealing with the circumstances.
Tony, this is your company, and you're running the show. And did you just basically bring anyone that was out there back to the terminal and leave them at that point? Or how far can you take them? And what's the insurance on something like this?
The insurance is very expensive. We took people, we got them into the terminal and the mechanics shop at the airport.
Okay.
Those were the two locations. The fire department was another location to take people, if you could get that far. As far as the insurance is roughly, to plow around the airplanes, about $100,000.
Well, what about taking people from an emergency situation? Is everything waived because of the nature of the rescue at this point?
No, nothing's waived, Kevin, but as far as in the emergency situations, we dealt with the fire department for people that needed insulin or any medical needs. We would contact the fire department when we came in encounter with people.
Paul, was there any training for anything like this that you have had over the years?
Yeah, I mean, we have a plan set in place for things of this nature, how to proceed, and we work very tightly with the NFTA as far as to make sure that if there's a medical emergency or whatever, we take the proper steps, I guess you would say, to whatever that is as it comes up.
Yep.
So,
I'm being kind of shown my time here, so I'm rapidly wrapping up. What I would like you to do, each of you, give me one thing you learned by this that you'll take for the rest of your life. We'll start right down at the end. Paul?
I would say that life is precious. You have to, I don't know what the right wording is for it, but you have to take things like this. They happen.
Right.
And it could all change in a minute. So.
I think you said it perfectly. Patrick?
I think to be prepared, to have a plan in case things go south, and to carry with you the proper equipment that you might need, spare clothes, things like that, and ultimately make that decision to go or not go, depending on what the circumstances could be.
And the boss, Tony?
I hate to say it, Kevin, but people don't listen to the driving bans. That's what I learned, is they venture out and we're human beings. We think we're invincible. When you get to a storm like this, you find out you're not.
Tony Galasso and Paul O'Leary and Patrick Hanley, thank you all very, very much. Again, I have a whole sheet of things we didn't even get to, but hopefully we can have you back at a future broadcast, and we won't have to worry about coming on the heels of maybe a catastrophic storm, but something a little bit more regular. Gentlemen, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin.
We will be back right after this.
No matter the occasion, Premier Gourmet is here for you. Featuring Buffalo's best craft beer selection, grocery store items, coffee, and gifts. Find locally made Buffalo products and everything you need for your home bar. Visit premiergourmet.com.
One thing we can all come away with, because of this situation, and we may have it again, make a plan on one of these or with your family, because it could be a matter of life or death. I'm Kevin O'Connell. Thanks for watching.